Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me today. I have the third and final video in my series using the soft pastel chalks that Stampin' Up! Has made available for us this last catalog. And I've just had a blast with them. They're really fun to mess with. There's so many things you can do. I'm going to show you 3 or 4 more kinds of techniques today, and we'll make a couple of the cards together. And I'm sure that I have not covered all of the things that you can do with the chalks, but we're going to finish this up and move on. So let's just get started. Okay, so here are the ones we've done so far. This one was painting with water or alcohol, either one would work, directly to paper. This one was using the blender pen. This one was, and I didn't show you the final finished card. This one was using the chalk directly to the paper with no fixative and nothing to hold it on there except the chalk staining the card material. And then I used, I don't know if you could see that, a piece of that pearlescent paper and cut out the seashells image and put some of the greenery down here, and I did everything in just the pearlized paper, and I think that came out just fine. And then on the inside I did the reverse. I cut some of that material out of the Mossy Meadow and added a few of the pearlized shells on the inside of this. So that is how I ended up finishing that one off. I think all the rest of these I finished while we were on camera. I'm going to start by showing you a couple of the other things that I have done with this material. And let's see, probably this one is the one that you haven't seen anything about. And this one is, I just used pieces of tear tape across my card, and it's a sticky surface when you take off the paper, and I figured the chalk would stick to it, and it actually does. And then this is where using that erasing technique works. If you get a little chalk over the line, you can actually just erase it until it gets to the point that it's permanently fixed. Now, fixative is a spray that you can get on it, and it stabilizes the chalk. Hairspray will do it, but I've also decided that so does Versamark. So if at the end of all of this I've got it wiped off as much as I want, I've got erased as much as I want, if I just put a little bit of Versamark over the top and then dry it with my heat tool, it's pretty well fixed on there as well. And then the Versamark dries in place and holds your material. But this one was kind of fun just because I was able to use all of the colors of the chalks on the tear tape. And then I had cut these butterflies for another project, and these were extra. So I thought this one, particularly with its stripes and different colors, kind of went with it. And then I had a couple of others and put a tag on here that says just because, and on the inside I just put a little butterfly. So that's another one that is a different way, and heat and stick powder will probably also work. Just putting the chalk down into the heat and stick powder once it's activated will allow you to put down just about any image that you want. All right, so I'm going to pull that one off to the side. Now this one was another one that I had finished, and this was the background where I just used the blending brushes with the chalks, and it gave me a very soft background. So I embossed this image of the seashells. This is that seashell image embossing folder. There's the stamp set and the dies. So what I did was I embossed this piece first on just a piece of white cardstock, and then I put Versamark over the top of the whole thing before I cut any further out. Then I used my blending brush and combined some of the colors. This one was combining Poppy Parade and Mossy Meadow, gave me kind of a brownish color. And then I went straight into the purples while it had a little bit of that brown on there. And then the light yellow, and then this one was more like this one. And then I used the Mossy Meadow on the greenery. And then I used the die to cut that whole thing out and put that on this background. And I love the way this one came out. But this was a background that we did last time, and then I added these opal rounds because I thought they would just pick up whatever color was on there. And so that was another one that we finished last time for a background, but had not finished the card. And so there's that one. Now today there's two I want to share with you. This is one. It says, "Love is what makes us family," and it's a very soft, very simple little card that has the image from Art Gallery, and we're going to, this one I got those diorama dies, and I thought it would be kind of fun to put a writing place on the inside using the 3 largest dies by using the largest and then the 3rd largest here to create something different for the inside. So we're going to make this one together, and then this one might be my favorite. This is using that Pretty Flowers embossing folder and then putting Versamark over the top of it, and then using my dauber and the chalks to go ahead and color the leaves and the flowers. And I just love the way this one came out. I just put a very simple inside on this one. So this is my plan for us to do this. And I've got, I thought we'd do this one first. And for this, I need my Versamark, which I have here. And this is my image from Art Gallery. And I'm just going to go ahead and put lots of Versamark on that. We want that image nice and concentrated. And I'm going to put that kind of right in the center on this little, these are all 3 3/4 by 5, so that I could add a rim around the other to pick up one of the colors that was on the inside. And I did that on all but this one, and I just put it on a Highland Heatherback card front. Okay, so here we go. There's my image, and of course you can't see it. I'll move it in the light. You might be able to see a little bit of it. So there's my image, and I don't know how much of that you can see, but I can. And so I've got my Poppy Parade dauber here, and I'm going to pick up, I've got my same old big block here with all of my colors on it, and I've still got some Poppy Parade on here. And let me get a scratch paper to put underneath this, and I'm just going to dab some of this Poppy Parade on the flowers here. And what I'm going to do is lay my stamp here so I can see where the flowers are supposed to be. And you can see here I'm picking up this one flower in the corner here. So I'm going to put on my Poppy Parade there. There's a big flower next to it. And I'm going to get my Poppy Parade. Then there's one just below and between those two that goes down quite a ways. And right now I just want to get the shadow of the flower. So I've got that, and then there's one right here. And I'm going to get that rest of that residue off. So there I've got where my Poppy Parade is. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit more Poppy Parade because I want that color a little darker than that. But it makes just the sweetest little card, and the image is very, very pretty. So I'm going to keep going on this and adding my Poppy Parade to my Versamarked image. And you get enough chalk on this so that you can't feel any of the Versamark. So there we go. There's that. Now we have these little flowers on the sides here. So I'm going to try and see if I can pinpoint those. I can see my Versamark here. So I'm going to try and do that by picking up just those little pieces. And let's see, there's one right down here. And there's kind of one in the middle. And I'm not worried about being totally accurate on that because it doesn't bother me that I might not be. And you can see what has happened to my dauber here. It has gotten completely trashed using this. So I'm going to grab a clean one. There we go. And it looks like I'm out of, I did this in the Mossy Meadow. And so I'm going to continue that look. So I'm going to grab my Mossy Meadow chalk here. And I'm going to put down a little bit right here. There we go. And I'm going to use my new green dauber here to pick up a little bit of that powder and get this leaf down here. That stem. And a couple of these stems, if I can get to them, in between those little flower buds. And there we go. Now, it gives almost the look of watercolor in that I'm just going to erase some of the heavy green here where I don't want it. Isn't that handy? Being able to erase a lot of that and make it go away. I don't mind that it has a little bit of a shadow because I think that is part of the mystery of, you know, putting this whole thing together, that it looks like it's just kind of a wispy representation. In fact, I'm going to take down a little bit of this Poppy Parade from the outsides of these flowers and in between as well. And I'm just using an eraser. Now, my sand eraser has a sand eraser on one end and a pencil eraser on the other, and that's got a little bit more of a sharp image, so I can get in between and get that chalk off of there a little bit more easily. And again, I don't mind that it has a little bit of the halo. I think that's part of what makes this kind of interesting. Now, I do want to take my green and go into, oh, I don't have much of that left on there. I'm going to put some of the Granny Apple down here because I want to mix those greens a little bit and pick up a little bit of that and see if I can't lighten some of that green and just add a different color to it. I think that looks real pretty. Now, the last thing that I did when I did this sample card here, oh, right here, it's right in front of me, is that I took some of the Daffodil Delight and pushed some of it off on my scratch paper and then went around the whole thing to just give it a little bit of a yellow halo. I thought that looked so pretty and almost a little vintage in its representation. And I'm not adding any more to it, and I'm just kind of running it off so that it gets lighter and lighter as it gets away from the central flower. And there we go. Isn't that pretty? I'm just tickled with the way this came out. Now, I'm going to use a paintbrush on this Poppy Parade because I do want to get a little bit more of that Poppy Parade color. I might have to put some more Poppy Parade down on that to do what I want to do. Yeah, this brush doesn't have a fine enough point for me to do what I want to do. So let's see if I have a another one, or a stiff brush, that might work. So let me put a little bit more Poppy Parade down here as well. I have just had so much fun messing with these chalks. It's been just a blast. And you know, you forget about some techniques like using the embossing folders and color and some of those kinds of things. So it's given me a bunch of ideas for other things as well. This is a very stiff brush, but I'm going to take just a tiny bit of the Poppy Parade, and that'll allow me to color in these little pieces a little bit darker. But I love the way this card came out. It's very soft and very ethereal, and just as pretty as it can be. Now, what I did for color, for my sentiment, was I used this stamp that says, "Love is what makes us family," and that's from the You Are Lovely. Lovely You, I guess, is the stamp set. And there it is. Love is what makes us family. This has got just beautiful sentiments on it, and I'm really tickled with the way this whole thing looks. So I'm going to put this on, and I used my Mossy Meadow ink, and I'm going to put this down right here along the bottom. There we go. And I think that just makes the sweetest little card. There we go. Love is what makes us family. Just love it. Okay, so on this one, what I did for this card is I backed it or layered it. This is 3 3/4 by 5. And so I have a piece of Mossy Meadow that is 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm just going to add some snail to the back of this card. And then I used some of those Artistry Blooms sequins, and I thought they worked particularly well with this card. And I put one at the base of each of these little flowers, and then dotted a couple more around the card. So I think I put one up there, and I put one kind of down here. And there we go. As simple as that, we've got that card done. And I thought that on the card for the inside, maybe we could just get a little bit of that same look by putting a little bit of these flowers. I'm not going to mess with the green stems, just the flowers right down here with some Versamark, and then get a little bit of the Poppy Parade put down there as well. Then I'm going to do exactly what I did on the front, and I'm going to erase a little bit of that powder, and then I'm going to use my yellow dauber and just pick up a little bit of that yellow halo right here at the bottom of the inside of the card. And there, I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to use I've got a dry Kleenex here, and just going to go over that. And maybe because they're sequins and they're nice and flat, I can add a couple of sequins here just to doll this up a tiny bit on the inside of my card. There we go. So this is now ready to go on the inside of my card. So here's my card base, and I've already laid down my piece of Mossy Meadow on the inside of that one to save a little bit of time. And there we've got that one, and then this card front. And I did use a little bit of fiber on this one, and I put the tiniest knot bow in the world on the outside of this one at the base of the flower. And so this one I'm going to leave be, but there we go. That is one more technique for using the chalks, and I think it comes out with just a lovely, lovely outcome. All right, here is the next one we're going to do. And I have my base and my inside of my card already done, because this is really all about getting the chalks applied to this. So I have already run my piece of 3 3/4 by 5 white through the embossing folder. Pretty Flowers is what it's called. And I have, let's see, I'm going to need some more chalk here. So I'm going to put a bit more of the purple down here. And I'm going to put a bit more of the Granny Apple down here. And I think I've got enough of the Mossy Meadow. And then I did want a little hint of the Bermuda Bay. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the Bermuda Bay. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to start by using my Versamark pad, and I am going to cover the flowers and the leaves on this piece of embossed paper, making sure that I get some of the Versamark on all of the raised images. And you can see when you're doing it, because it gets a little bit shiny if you hit everything that you intended to. And there, I think I've got that one pretty good. So, and I think that's all I'll need of the Versamark on this one. Now I'm going to use my daubers, and I have a purple here. Pick up some powder, dab it off a little bit here, and go ahead and ink up, as it were, my flowers. And I'm going to do that fairly lightly right at first, just so that I make sure I find all of the flowers and have them marked so I can darken them if I choose to. I think those are all of the flowers. Now I'm going to take my green, and I'm going to go in with the darker green first and get those marked. Okay, so now I'm ready to go back and add more color on my flowers. Now I thought I would go in and add a little dimension by adding some of the granny apple to some of these leaves. And then I went in and added just a little bit of this Bermuda Bay to some of those leaves as well, to get even different shading on some of them. And there, isn't that pretty? It comes out just beautifully. Now I'm going to take a Kleenex here and just brush away the excess. And that lightened up a couple of the flowers more than I wanted. So I'm going to add a little bit back and flick that away. All right. Now, what I found was that if I went back over this with just a little bit of Versamark, and it does get a little bit of color on your Versamark pad, but what do we do with the Versamark pad that doesn't? And then I'm just going to let that dry, but with a heat tool you can make that go a little bit faster, and then it's pretty well fixed on there. It doesn't come off. So this piece is ready to go now, and I'm using a little bit of this ribbon across the bottom here. And we don't need a very big piece, just enough to go across the bottom of the card. This background is so pretty that I just thought, you know, I think this paper is a little bit smaller than this one. It is. So maybe I'll put a bit of green around this one. Let's see, I think I've got some of that Mossy Meadow here. So I'm going to add some snail to the back of this piece. And put down my piece of ribbon. See if that's even remotely close to being straight. Actually, it's not too bad. Very close. All right. So I am going to anchor this ribbon down on the back of my card here and place that on my piece of Mossy Meadow. So this piece is 3 3/4 by 5. The Mossy Meadow is 4 by 5 1/4. And then it's going on a standard base that is 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And so now I'm just going to add my seal to the back of this and put this on my card. Now we have one little piece of stamping to do, and I've got a little piece of scrap here So I've got some gorgeous grape. There's one other stamp set that I used here. I used Simply Succulent because it had You've Been on My Mind on it, and I kind of like that one. And I've got this in the gorgeous grape, and I'm going to go right up here on the top and put a little bit of this stamp there. Then I'm going to trim that down. Okay, there I've got my place cleaned out, and I've got this You've Been on My Mind here, again from the Simply Succulent, and I'm going to add a couple of mini dimensionals to that. And I'm going to set that right down here at the bottom of my ribbon, so we get to see all of that pretty stuff up there at the top. On this one, I used regular rhinestones, and I think on this one, I'm going to use these purple rhinestones from the In Colors. All right, so there we go. That is my project and my series. I have one other card that I made that I do want to show you. And my swap this month for my team is Christmas in July, so I might just do this one. There is a pine, it's called Wintry, and it is a 3D embossing folder that's got these pine pieces on it. And what I did on this one is I put this, doesn't go all the way across the card front, so I did as much of it as I could catch, and then I did this end, and then I put my strip of paper down the middle so you can't see where it kind of crossed over. And then I put Versamark all over, and then I used my dauber in the Mossy Meadow and went over the pine leaves. Didn't that come out pretty? I just love it. And then I used some of those rhinestones from the In Colors. And then on this one is called the Evergreen Punch, I think it's called. And you can punch out, it punches out 3 or 4 trees all together. And I thought, what a simple little thing. I'll just cut them out in Mossy Meadow and stick them behind there. And I used glue dots to raise them so that they ended up looking like a little forest. And then on the inside, I did a little edge of that embossing and hoping this season builds heartwarming memories. That's a real simple and easy Christmas card. And I think I will use this for my swap for Christmas in July with my team. Anyway, so that's it. So today we did this one, which we did with the dauber and Versamark. This one I'm showing you for the first time today. We did this one with daubers and Versamark. Then we did the soft background using the blending brushes, and then I used that seascape on there. This is one that is done with tear tape. This is one where I cut the shells out of the pearlized paper and put it on. This one was the direct chalk to paper background. Then I did this one, which was done also with the softer blending brushes. Then this one where we did direct chalk to paper, and then we ran the entire thing, including the layer that is behind it, a Bermuda Bay, through the embossing folder that is this embossing folder. And we added a few little fish. So there's that one. We did this one where we used a blender pen to come up with the coloring mechanism into the chalks to get the color on the butterflies. And then we did this one, where we used water or alcohol directly into the chalks and painted with it. So there we go. It is a lot of material, and I think all of it just really pretty. They were definitely fun to do, and lots of techniques, lots of different things. And the only one we really didn't do, and I'm positive it would work, would be to use heat and stick powder and then put the chalk down on the heat and stick. Anything that'll make it stick to the card, I think would work. So that is it. That is my series, and I showed you at least 5 different techniques and ways to use the chalks. I hope you enjoyed that, and that is my project for today. So thanks again for stopping by my YouTube channel. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, well, I'd love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. Now, let's see, there's a couple things going on in Stampin' Up! The catalogs, the new catalogs for the fall and Christmas season are on their way. You should have them from me. Those of you that have placed an order in the last 6 months will have catalogs coming from me, probably by the middle of this month. And if you don't get one from me, or you've never had a catalog and you'd like to get one, just let me know. Send me your contact information, and I'm happy to send catalogs to you. Let's see, my prize draw for the month is the Grapevine Bundle. And you get yourself in my drawing by putting an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net. You can get to it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. And so that is it for me. I will be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye!